All right. And then, as always, I just like to do a quick check to make sure that we're live. Are we? Yes, we are. Hello, good evening, happy holidays, everyone. Sorry for the long delay. It's been last crazy 60 days or so, but it's gonna be me and Tony tonight. Josh might hop in; he's traveling for the holidays. But welcome back, welcome back. It's long overdue and much needed. Hello, I'm your MC for the night. I forgot how to do the intro, and I'm going to be leading us. And as always, my name's Jerry, and I'm joined by Tony.
What's up?
I know I absolutely botched that,
I liked it. I don't know.
but as always, this is BatYard Productions, where we talk everything Batman, Superman, pop culture, and more. And as always, we start off with our BS segment where we talk about anything noteworthy we've seen, things that are exciting we've watched over the intermission, and things coming out we're looking forward to. And I know I have quite a bit. If you want to
Okay.
go first, Tony.
I'm trying to think of any. um.
Did you see the Superman trailer? Because
Oh, I kind of skimmed through it, but it looks crazy.
it
Green
looks.
Lantern looks weird.
I'm not happy for a few reasons. Oops, I accidentally did something on camera. Ignore that. I'm not happy. Like, I don't have anything against Nathan Fillion. I think he's a good actor, but him being Guy Gardner with the bowl cut from Ned's Declassified, he looks like Coconut
Mhm.
Head. And
Guy Gardner is the. Oh yeah. Oh, I've never known this Green Lantern. That makes sense.
yeah, he's the Lex Lantern after Hal. He's before John Stewart.
Okay.
He's an interesting Lantern. I personally don't think he's all that, but that's just because I don't really like his character personally. I will say this though, James Gunn should have just hired Josh to be Superman because the dude that they got to be Superman just looks like a great value Josh.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this, I'm like, Josh, did you get a movie deal while we were gone? And it's so crazy because it looks like it's going to be a pretty good movie. Let me not say looks like it. I'm hoping it is. I'm not holding my
Yeah.
breath for anything James Gunn's is doing right now. But we get to see Crypto. We get to see Superman in the suit. It looks like they're going back to the original suit where he's got the shorts on the outside and he's got
Mhm.
the that one curl in his hair. So it
Yeah.
looks like he's trying to go back to the original design for Superman, which I think is kind of cool. But I'm just not really sure on what direction it's gonna go because it looks like he's gonna be fighting Brainiac, right? I couldn't
I'm
really
trying to
tell from
remember.
what they gave us in the trailer.
Didn't they show Lex like a little bit?
Yeah, they showed him. I'm not really fond of who they showed to be Lex. I don't know anything about him, but he just doesn't give me Lex Luthor.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know too much about the Superman lore, so I can't even picture who would be the the villain. They did show like an actual Brainiac in the trailer.
I think they did. It was everything was moving, kind of fast, and it was hard to really just, get a
Hmm.
good grip on things, outside of things that they wanted you to see.
Right.
So I'm hoping that, they give us a classic Superman villain, but I hope that they also don't screw it up because,
Yeah.
I've had enough of the superhero movie flops. I haven't, oh God, I don't even think I've watched anything outside of Blue Beetle within the last couple of years
Yeah.
because everything just, it's either been disappointing or it didn't meet my standard of what I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know. I haven't watched DC in a long time, and Marvel has been far away from my. I don't know. Wolverine was good.
Yeah, I did like Wolverine. My only thing is just Marvel has built themselves up for like the last 16 years. So you know what works and you know what doesn't. And as much as I like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, you can tell that they heavily influenced every other subsequent movie now.
Yeah.
Not that I think it's a bad thing because you do want diversity in a movie, but you could literally just take the crew from Guardians of the Galaxy, throw them in the movie, and it's basically a Guardians movie.
No, I agree. And I think it's funny that James Gunn is, got pegged for Superman. He's the one that did Guardians, right? That's the
Yeah,
same
he did
James.
Guardians. That's his big claim. He did Guardians and the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the tone of this movie. Based on the trailer, it doesn't feel like it's going to be like one of those goofy, funny James Gunn movies where everything is undercut with a joke. But I think it's funny because James Gunn has like that trilogy, and it feels
and I
like
think it's really interesting, especially considering he did the Suicide Squad, which was his first DC project, and I watched that and I was like, oh, this isn't like bad. I'm not particularly fond of the movie or think it's all of that, but I thought it was a good, like, entertaining film. I was entertained, which is what I look for in a movie.
Yeah, it feels like they're using James Gunn to unscrew themselves because they're like, we don't trust anyone. This guy has a track record. Let's just keep hiring him for as many projects as possible.
DC has a good track record. They're just not sticking with what their formula is.
Yeah.
Their formula is their TV shows,
Right.
which are good, and then their animated shows, which, have gotten very dark and serious because they did, what was it? They did the Flashpoint Paradox as a movie, which basically was just another Flash movie. And then we got Ezra Miller's Flash, and that was just hot garbage. I hated that.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of, obviously the other legal things that he was doing.
That sounded like it must have been a production nightmare based on the dude could not stay out of the news like every day.
I could not imagine having to be over that project, knowing full well, oh, here goes Ezra Miller doing
what's the next thing?
Again.
Yeah.
Lord. And then what else? I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but the Nosferatu movie, the new one's coming out this week on Christmas, actually. And I've been following that pretty heavy because I'm like, yes, I'm a big like creature feature fan. So the fact we're finally getting some new ones, I am like over the moon. I'm so excited. And everyone said like this movie's been like really good. They enjoyed it a whole lot. They said it met all the check boxes. They even gave a shout out to SpongeBob and the episode they did back in the day where they introduced kids to Nosferatu. And I was like,
really? How?
I think it was like at the end of the episode, they just had him flipping a light switch or something. I haven't watched it in God knows how long. But I'm just like, oh, this is perfect. We're getting Nosferatu. We have a middle ground werewolf movie that's come out called Werewolves. And then next month, we get the Wolfman.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the next one on the list either has to be Bride of Frankenstein or maybe a new Dracula. But I'm not holding my breath on it because they've tried that a couple different times and it didn't turn out too good.
Yeah. I feel like Universal is like really investing in like, I know Nosferatu is not Universal, but they're still going with this dark universe. I think they had like one bad movie and one really good movie, and I know they're building a whole big theme park at Universal Studios. So I feel like we're gonna keep getting these movies, and like they want it to be a moneymaker, so it's gonna be good, I'm sure. So it's pretty exciting.
And I've kept up. When I say I've been seeing nothing but just like, oh, this movie's a 9 out of 10 and like an 8.5 out of 10. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. Give me a dark movie. And I don't care, that obviously it came out after Halloween. Yeah. But give me a good dark movie with substance. I don't want it to just be a gore fest. I don't want it to be a smut flick. Like, give me a mix of both. Like, give me a little smut, nothing too crazy, but also give me enough gore and violence to where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that dude just got his head ripped off, or that dude just got bisected.
Yeah, exactly. And they got the right guy for that. I haven't watched The Witch. I've heard it's exactly like that, but he did The Lighthouse, where it's like slow burn, like very creepy, and then there's like one or two moments where it's just like, oh my god, like what is going, like just weird, not, I wouldn't say gross, but like dark turns, and like a otherwise like slow burn scary movie. So I think they got the right guy
Yes.
for it. So it's gonna be great.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm trying to think. There was something else I just saw.
I got
It
Have you
You
been
can
playing
go ahead.
Marvel
I gotta see if I
Rivals?
can find it.
Have you been playing Marvel Rivals?
I have not. Like, I want to play it, but I'm just like, I don't know if I can do another game like this again because I
Yeah,
play Overwatch 2 on occasion. So
yeah.
I'm not like super crazy on the idea of playing another clone.
Mm, I feel that. I feel that. I think this is a very, very well made game. It's strange. Like you would, it feels like an Overwatch clone. Like you would think it would. You would be like, oh, this is just Overwatch, and it does. Like it's very similar game, but it's like not like worse on quality. It feels like a sidestep to Overwatch. You know what I mean? Which is
Okay.
kind of crazy to me because like usually like Marvel knockoff of like a popular game or like a first person shooter, you'd be like, this is just worse, but cool because Marvel characters. Like, nah, it's like actually a good game. And it's funny I'm bringing it up because I think that I don't know if it leaked or they announced it, but Blade is going to be a character coming very soon in the game, so it's kind of
Oh, is
on
he?
brand.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. I can't believe that. I might give it a try. It's just
Mhm.
I know here lately, especially on the gaming end, so many things are like, oh, this was successful and this kind of genre. So let me
Yeah.
just make a little bit of a watered down clone of it. Because that's just like, I don't know if you got a chance to see the video game awards, Tony, but people I've been seeing online are upset that Astrobot won Game of the Year and not Black Myth Wukong. And I
Yeah.
can understand both sides of it, but for me, we already had a Black Myth Wukong with Elden Ring. And I'm
Yes.
not discrediting Black Myth Wukong because,
Yes.
it's a foreign title that was received really well, which is what, the gaming industry does need. We need to get, other ideas from other places outside of our
Hmm.
staple. But also, Astrobot is a really fun and just good platforming game, and the fact that people said this is much to me, people said like Astrobot was a better platformer to them than Mario is, which Mario is the king of platformers. There's only a few games people hold above Mario, and hearing like a Sony exclusive with all of their games of the past and different titles that they work on that has been so well received, I'm like, you have to give this its flowers. The fact that
Yeah.
it's good, adults like it, and kids like it. I mean, obviously, a kid's gonna like it, but the fact
Yeah.
adults are having fun with this, you can't say anything negative about that, in my opinion. Because
No, I
if you
agree.
do, what are where are you kind of setting your standard for a good game?
Yeah. I don't know. That whole discourse around the game awards really, I thought it was really weird to me because I feel like it's just people discrediting games and genres they don't play just because they don't play them. Like I loved Astrobot, and I play a little bit of Balatro because it's on like Apple Arcade on my phone. So I've been playing it on my phone, and it's like really good. And those are the two games that everyone was like, not everyone, but a lot of people were like, these can't win because these are not game of the year production wise. And it's like, come on, man. Like, I don't know.
Come on, we're all gamers of
Yeah,
various kinds. Some people are like, I like my
yeah,
mobile game because I can play on my phone anywhere.
yeah,
Some people are like, oh, I like playing on my console because I can play with all my friends. And other
yeah,
people are
exactly.
playing on PC because, Steam sales, you can never beat a Steam sale.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I don't
I
know.
think everyone's just gotten so in their own space and they don't want to hear anything different. But I guess
Yeah, I
people have
agree.
always been like that. So we're just finally getting a chance to see it.
Yeah. I have
Um,
another thing that it's a little interesting. Have you been
please,
following?
Please go ahead, Tony.
It's really stupid, and it's probably not a real thing, but people are mad at the voice actor for what's his name, Miles in the Spider-Man movies.
Why?
Because he's I don't know. I don't know how to describe this, but he's been very strange about his co-stars. Like his one co-star got engaged to Josh Allen, and he posted this weird tweet about it, which was kind of interesting. And then recently, he posted a video with another co-star from another movie, and she was like, "Why did you post that? That's from a year ago. Like, I have a fiance. You're a weirdo." And then he deleted his Twitter. So everyone on Twitter is like, "Can you just like hold it in for another year until we get the new Spider-Verse, and then you can say whatever you want on Twitter and be a weirdo?"
That's weird.
And everyone's like, "Please, dude, just shut up for the sake of Spider-Verse. We can't get this movie canceled because of you."
Honestly, I understand because actors have definitely been saying things over the last couple of years that have gotten movies canceled.
Yeah.
So, and Spider-Verse, I've said it before, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan, but Spider-Verse has been really solid in my opinion.
Good. It's been so good.
And if we lose it because the voice actor is just being a weird dude, let's just go ahead and cut and just let's block him for a year and then get it back.
Exactly.
I also found what I was looking for. We have a official release for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It's going to be, I think it said 25 or 26. We're getting it. And I think it's going to be around the same time of December as the first one. So I'm very much looking forward to that because, they're still bringing in Matthew Lillard. He's going to be in this one and the final one. They're going to do a trilogy for it. And then they also said that Markiplier is going to finally make a cameo in it, which I'm like, yes. And,
That's great.
This is going to really show how much I was never on the internet as a teen and even a young adult. I didn't know who Markiplier was until I got with my fiance. She showed me Markiplier, and I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? But then, as she showed me more of his videos and stuff, I'm like, okay, I see. I think he's a pretty good dude. I don't have anything negative to say. But I did watch him play Five Nights at Freddy's when it was still popular, and I'm like, yeah, I see why people were upset that he wasn't in the first one because he did help popularize Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, if you still look up Five Nights at Freddy's, Markiplier is still like one of the few redirects that pops up. He's still the king of FNAF.
Yeah.
And I'm not terribly upset that, he wasn't in the first one. I'm like, he's going to come in because he loves everything Five Nights at Freddy's. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing not even just him being in the second Five Nights, but just the second Five Nights in general. Because if they go the direction I think they are, the third movie is going to end on a really solid high note. Like, it'll be a perfect trilogy.
I'm not as familiar with I know of the games and I know of like some of the internet memes and stuff behind it, but I've never like played them and I don't know the world and I haven't watched the movie. But I think it's really funny, looking at the cast. It's interesting Markiplier wasn't in it because like the game theorist guy and this other YouTuber.
Corey Kenshin.
Yeah. They were apparently in the movie, which is like crazy to include them and not Markiplier because I think like all three of them were probably like huge to popularize the movie or the game. And also Matthew Lillard being in that movie is so interesting to me because I feel like he's been away from Hollywood for like decades. It's an interesting project to dip his toes back into. I guess he's done in more movies. He was a voice actor in Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of Realms, and a lot of Scooby-Doo stuff. I did not know that. He was still doing Scooby-Doo animated stuff.
Yeah. He's been in... Matthew Lillard has been around the block for a long time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously he's been in the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, but he was also in, like, I think he was... Excuse me. I know he was. I think he was also in like the very first Scream movie back in the
Yeah,
day.
no, yeah, that's yeah. He was like one of the main guys in Scream. Yeah,
Yeah, so he's, and obviously he's a little bit older now. But I mean, the fact that he's like, you know what, I'll come back and, if
yeah,
things turn out good, I'll keep doing it, which I don't
yeah,
blame him for because, obviously we've also learned some other things that have been going on in Hollywood that other, like big name celebrities have been, keeping under wraps and stuff, which I can't blame him for because Hollywood is not what people expect it to be.
yeah. I can't
So I
imagine.
understand wanting to get out of the limelight and just having, that space where you're yourself and you don't have to worry about anything like that.
Yeah, it looks like he just basically only did TV and voice acting for a long time, and then stepped into a few roles in like some movies. But I feel like I haven't seen him in so long, so it's kind of cool. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very fun to see him back. There's one more thing that I have. I just need to find out when this other movie's releasing. So if you had anything else, Tony, please feel free.
I'm trying to think of something. I don't know. I don't know what I got. I don't think I got anything.
Here it is. They're making another Snow White. That's what it was.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah, and I was just like, why are we getting another Snow White?
Is this a live action one?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
another.
didn't they
It's a
already?
live action one.
Did they make a live action one recently?
The last one they did was Maleficent,
Oh, okay.
which was the story of the evil witch, but
Right.
that was such a good movie. I was like, I don't fucking need Snow White. Give me this. And
Yeah.
also, Angelina Jolie is a very good actress, so that was also a big high point in the movie.
Right.
But yeah, they're making another Snow White. I'm not sure kind of why they're doing it. I mean, I'm not gonna see it. I'm kind of in that phase where I'm Disneyed out. Like if Disney puts out a movie and I see it, cool. If not, no skin off my nose. Because I had spoken with one of my aunts yesterday who took her grandsons to see the Mufasa movie, and she said that it was pretty good. You got to see the story on how Scar and Mufasa, got their bond and became brothers, and Mufasa's rise to being king. And I was like, I might go see it. I might not. I'm like I said, I'm kind of over Disney. I haven't really been pleased with some of their other live action stuff that they've done. So, and also there's, a whole facet of Disney that I just don't want to deal with because of their decision making out of just the pure greed of money. But we've talked about that plenty
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. This is like the type of movie my girlfriend would drag me to see. Otherwise, I probably won't see it. I'll probably enjoy it when I see it, but it's not something I'm gonna like seek
Go
out.
out of your way.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like the same way with the Little Mermaid. And when I saw it, I was like, yeah, it was cool. I probably wouldn't have watched it on my own, but it was good.
I'm trying to think. Don't think I have anything else. That was everything I had in my. Oh no, I'm wrong. I'm super wrong. I forgot. So, earlier in the month, I went to go see the Daft Punk movie Interstellar 5555, which was basically their album movie that they had done, and it was so good. It was only an hour long because it was. I think that's how long the album is, and start to finish, it's there's no dialogue outside of just the songs that have lyrics in them, but it was such a great experience to finally see the movie, and I'm glad I did it. It was only in theaters for one night, and I said I have to go see this. I don't care if I have to go right after work and I have to load up on like 8 cups of coffee and 2 energy drinks. It was such an enjoyable experience. If you ever get the chance to look at it, it's really good. It's got the 90s art style of, being hand drawn
Okay,
and
yeah.
things. The only thing is that they did do some AI rendering to try to remaster. But I mean, I obviously
Ooh.
look past that because I mean it's AI. I know AI is not going to be great and I don't particularly care about AI. But just, finally seeing the movie that everyone's talked about, like, yes, this movie is like one of the best things, like as far as an animation and music standpoint, because everything was just really, even though it was colorful and bright, it also got knew the times where to pull back on the dark settings of it to really signify like, oh, this is an emotional time. And that movie was easily like the highlight of December.
That's
Like just
awesome.
watching, I think there was no empty seats when we had went to go see it. And
That's
then
actually nuts.
when the movie had finished, they had played a couple of old music videos that Daft Punk had done over the years, which was very cool to see because obviously the group has been broken up for a few years now, if I remember right.
I think so, yeah.
So just taking a little nostalgia trip down memory lane was really nice, and I think that's it for me. I don't have any comic book news. I haven't seen anything big coming just yet outside of the Superman and Guy Gardner being in Superman.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna ask about the Daft Punk movie. That is that where the I just looked it up and I just saw some pictures. Is this where the harder, better, faster, stronger music video comes from?
Yeah, so the harder, better, faster, stronger, one more time, something about us.
Mhm.
And there's another, very iconic song that they have from that album that's also a music video from it. Like the whole movie is like all the music videos for it is just pulled right from the movie.
That's cool.
And like finally being able to see it on the big screen, it's almost like it's like if they did the original reel for
Mhm.
Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
It's almost like watching that.
that's
You're
awesome. Yeah,
getting to see it in its originality. I mean, obviously, I said that there was the AI remaster, but that that's just the age we live in. We're trying to remaster everything, but fuck it, it doesn't matter. But yeah, like all the songs from the what album was it? Discovery, Alive. It was one of those that they had done pulled the music from. But yeah, like everything on there basically was in the movie.
that's fire.
Yeah, so if you're ready, Tony, we can move right on into the small bits, the little appetizer, Spider-Man season 2, episode 9, Blade the Vampire Hunter. And if you don't mind, I will take the reins for that one.
Sounds good.
So now we'll be getting into the appetizer of the episode tonight with Spider-Man 1994 season 2 episode 9, Blade the Vampire Hunter. And this is a part of I forget the big thing in the 90s was a whole season basically was just a continuing part of something that happened on episode 1. And so in this episode we learned that there is Peter Parker's been fighting the man spider disease, which was caused by his mutation from the spider bite, which caused him to grow into an actual spider and gain extra appendages. But through the help of Dr. Connors and another university professor, they made the neogenic recombinator and got Peter back to his normal self as far as things are concerned. And then along in this episode, we see that Michael Morbius was using Peter Parker's blood and as a test base, and he was attacked by a bat who was after the blood that was in the petri dish, and then the neogenic recombinator had turned him from a human into a man vampire hybrid. And as the episode continued on, we see that he is now draining the life of people and just draining their plasma specifically because that's what he uses to feed. And then along the way, we are introduced to Blade, the vampire hunter, and he's obviously his goal is to kill all vampires and try to restore his mother back to humanity. But we learn that he was abandoned at an orphanage after his mother was attacked by a vampire. And even as a child, Blade knew he was different because he would get different fits of rage where his vampire genetics would kick in and give him, superhuman strength, enhanced durability, and so on and so forth. And so Blade and Spider-Man have a small back and forth because Blade is extremely wary of Spider-Man because he says, I want to help Michael Morbius. It's my fault he's like this. I created him. And in Blade's mind, he's like, okay, if you have the power to make vampires, then I have to destroy what you have made him with. And even within those lines, Peter is like, no, there's a way to fix him. I just need your help trying to do it. And along the way, they forge a small, albeit temporary, alliance because Michael Morbius is, just on the hunt. He's trying to get a hold of the Neogen Recombinator himself to turn everyone else into vampires because he thinks he's the only one in the world when, in all truth and honesty, there are several thousand, maybe even tens of thousands more vampires. I can't remember because this was a 2-part episode. And so, again, we see that Peter Parker is being questioned by one of the police chiefs because he and Felicia Hardy have been getting close, and then Mary Jane and Harry Osborn begin to get close because she feels neglected because Peter's talking to Felicia saying, it's okay. I know you miss Michael. I'm going to help you get him back. Everything's going to be all right, Felicia. Don't worry about it. And Mary Jane takes that very personally because, obviously Mary Jane and Peter Parker are, another comic book iconic couple. And so, jaded, she moves on to Harry Osborn. And then at the end of the episode, we see that Michael Morbius does get the neogenic recombinator and flies away to begin his process of transforming people. And Blade tells Spider-Man, "Thank you for the help. I see that we are going to need to form an alliance, and there are some vampire tricks I need to teach you if we hope to continue on this battle." I think I hit all the high notes on that.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought this episode was interesting. Also, we'll talk about it more in the movie. I didn't really know Blade as a character, but I think it's really funny that he has all these vampire-specific gadgets. Like, I just know him for the katanas, like in the movie. Like, I'd never seen the movie, but just the image and like scenes. But it's funny in this. He throws a garlic grenade.
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
Yeah, he's got a garlic grenade. He's got the UV low powered sun high beam on his motorcycle. His motorcycle also has those spike treads, so he can just rev it up the side of fucking buildings.
Yeah, that was the craziest thing to me about this. Is like, I feel like, I don't know. I can't say that. I was gonna say Spider-Man. I guess it's not grounded in reality at all. It's never grounded in reality. For a second I thought that, but it's just not. But it's just crazy to see Blade just jump from rooftop to rooftop in a bike, essentially the whole episode. That was crazy to me.
On this big fucking Harley. Yeah. Like, I know that thing is weighing every bit of 400 pounds.
Yeah, and he's just jumping it over everything.
He's just revving that hog, and he's just going up the sides of buildings. He's tearing up the fucking sidewalks and streets, just going after Morbius and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then one thing I forgot about, in the cartoon, they give him an energy katana. And I'm like, I do not remember him ever having this.
Yeah.
I guess when I watched this as a kid, I just straight up blocked it out.
Yeah. There was a lot going on this episode. I think it's just because we caught it right in the middle of like an arc. But it starts in the middle of this fight with Morbius. Blade comes, and then like Spider-Man has like 6 arms in the intro, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, he's just jumped in the middle of something crazy here. And then they started talking about him being Man-Spider, and I was like, okay, that makes more sense. A little bit more sense. We're getting there.
one thing I definitely forgot: the CGI in this is so god awful.
Oh, it's funny as hell.
I was like watching a PlayStation 2 cutscene on, like they were like, okay, let's try to do
Yeah.
3D rendering, but we got to put the whole budget in it. We have to make sure they can see every pane of window.
Yeah. They did it in the intro, and I've never seen the show. Like they did it in the intro, and I was like, "Oh, maybe it's just for the intro." There's a scene where they're fighting on the rooftop, and it cuts to him like swinging around the pole, and it's just him swinging in 3D. And I'm like, "Dude, what?" Like
It was,
the whole
I'll say,
rotate.
that was an adventurous thing to do, especially,
Yeah,
in the middle of the 90s like that.
yeah, that was a time to
Because,
do it.
back then the standard was to, everything was hand drawn, obviously. But even still, you put a little more of your animation budget into the people walking, talking, and even in like the clothes and stuff, because they actually had, I didn't realize it, watching it, but thinking back on it, they had put a lot of like small details in the clothes.
Mm.
Like you could see wrinkles here and there. You could obviously see that, something was worn. It looked kind of ratty. So I did appreciate, like, they really did think to put some kind of serious effort into it. So I'm not terribly mad or upset that they did that. I just
Right.
wish that so much more could have went into these buildings, because it's literally like playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. That's what it really reminded me of. I'm like,
Yeah.
watch out, Peter. The whatever the crazy name we put for some of these roller coasters back in the day was, and he's just, having the internal monologues, and I forgot how much he just had those monologues. It's so much of the episode, and he's always just like talking to himself. He's answering his own questions. And, I guess, well, not I guess, animation is still expensive. But even back then, you couldn't really just have someone hold a full on just
Yeah.
mouth moving conversation with another person without it being like, okay, let's just hold on a bit because
Yeah.
we're going to blow too much of the budget here.
Yeah, exactly. They got the voice actor just be like, "Oh, just give some exposition while he's swinging across the building." The same 3 frames.
Man, the same 3 frames every time. Because I went back and I've watched some specific episodes that I remembered really well. And I was just like, oh, so you mean to tell me that this really was like this in every like 3D web slinging monologue? It's
Yeah.
like that in the day on New York City. It's like that when he's riding on the train sometimes. I'm just
Yeah.
like, who approved some of these decisions? Because there is just no fucking way in hell people in the studio were like, you know what? That's it. We're going to have him monologue 10 minutes of the episode. We're going to have a flashback here and there. And then we're going to have a couple of fight scenes that are going to be 3 to 4 minutes long.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it must have been a budget thing. I mean, you watch. I don't know. I like anime, but there's some anime that I don't like. A lot of the anime that I've watched is like that, where it's just like fight scene talking about the fight for 20 minutes and then a recap of the last episode. So like the only new scenes are like 3 minutes long.
Man, I will say I do appreciate the flashbacks, especially now,
Yeah.
because I don't remember a lot of this episode. I remember more of the following episode. I didn't want to do that one because I was like,
Yeah.
I just want to do the
Yeah.
introduction to Blade.
Yeah.
But this definitely gave me a new appreciation for the thought process they did in the moment that paid out so much later on. Because Lord have mercy, having to remember the Sinister Six being a thing, Peter Parker essentially fighting a mutation, a radiated mutation disease, and also the fact that there's a man going around giving people hickeys, you forget so much. And I mean so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you by the flashback? Do you mean like the intro in the beginning, or like the flashback to show about how Blade
The
became
intro in the
Blade?
beginning.
Okay, yeah. No, yeah, they showed they showed that, and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Just immediately.
I
It seems
was
like an interesting show, though. At least they have all that going on in one season. That's a lot.
Yeah, and it was the 90s one before they did Spider-Man Beyond or whatever the future one was. I think that only ran for like
Oh,
one season.
yeah.
I know this was like 5 seasons, and each season had quite a bit of like story to be like in one season. Because I think this continued on even until like episode I think 11 or 12. He was still dealing with Man Spider. Like you had the main plot, and then
Yeah.
you had a subplot, and then in between all of that, you had the smallest little thing happen that they were like, okay, we've run out of ideas for the week. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to just do this as a filler to just hold us over until we can work out the kinks on this script.
Yeah. This episode very much definitely felt like we have an idea for Morbius and Blade. We don't quite have enough time to introduce Blade. So let's give an episode where they just chase Morbius for 20 minutes and then we give some exposition to Blade. and
Yeah.
then tie off a couple loose ends that were set up somewhere earlier.
And that's something else I think was crazy. I'm like, you could have honestly had a whole season really just kind of dedicated to Morbius and Blade,
Yeah.
teaming up with Spider-Man. Because Morbius isn't 100% a bad guy. So, you could have had him in the beginning try to fight off, his vampiric desire. And then in the end, you could have been like, okay, you're not bad, but you're going to kind of do your own thing because now you're starting to reject your humanity. So now there's the whole issue of, do I let you live? Do I let you die? Do I call in Blade to come kill you? So there's just, quite a bit of, different plots you could try to do with all of that. And still, even within the Blade plot, there are a lot of things you could have done before you got to Morbius because even taking out the neogenic or the genetic laser beam, you could have had somebody like Vulture come back and have Blade think, oh, this is a vampire who's coming and going through his powers, and he's trying to find a way to make himself young again so he can be in the high prime of his life. And then you could have it turn out that like, oh no, that's just Vulture going through some crazy ass bullshit.
Yeah.
That's how I would have done it personally, but I know obviously in the 90s, watching this as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, this is good. I like that. I like this quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. No, I think like yeah, it could have used something like that a little bit more. I like Blade as a character. I'm glad that they at least gave him an intro and gave him something to do. I don't know. I think that
Yeah.
makes the episode a lot more interesting than Spider-Man just chasing Morbius around.
I definitely did not like how edgy they made Blade. I
Yeah.
forgot that was a thing back then. Like, okay, if we're gonna have, a broody hero, we got to make him kind of edgy. Like, we have to make sure he's pissed off all the time. He has to have this fucking Harley, and he has to have these badass weapons, and then he has to have a tragic backstory. And then, they're almost making him like a vigilante. Like, yes, that's
Yeah.
what Blade is to a degree, but Jesus Christ, people, give the man some substance.
Did he have like was he like a biker in like the original like comics, or is this like
I
just
I
an
never
idea that he
read
was?
much of the Blade comics. Like, I know of them. I just, I never got into it. It was never something that really piqued my interest. But I've
Yeah,
looked into him here and there, so I want to say potentially he was.
I thought it was strange to make half of that, almost, or maybe more than half the episode of him on the bike. Like the bike was cool. It could have been like one scene, but like I feel like I didn't even know that was Blade when they first showed him because I just saw like a guy on a bike, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
because I definitely agree with you. I remember watching this for the first time. I'm like, who is this dude? He's just
yeah,
mad. He's on this bike. He's got this sword that can cut through anything. And he's really got it out for any type of vampire. So I was just like, I don't dislike him, but I'm not one of those people who likes edgy characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my favorite kind of trope, but that's neither here nor there. I was just more so focused on why does this dude's haircut look so weird?
Yeah, it kind of looks like he has like the similar haircut to what he has in the movie, but it's not quite right.
Yeah, it was like they
He
wanted
has
to
kind of
work
like the
on the
flat
texture for it.
sides.
They were trying to give him, like a what is it? Oh, damn it! It was. I know the hairstyle. I just can't remember.
Yeah,
But it's like they were trying to give him a box top, and I'm like,
yeah.
looking at it now, I'm like, y'all, there's no texture in the hair. You
Yeah,
kind of just poof, poof, like, and then you give them, a little bit of a taper here and there, so it kind of worked out, but it's a little silly looking. But
yeah.
one thing I definitely wanted to know is how did you feel about, seeing Michael Morbius, as the vampire and just him being in that fucking trench coat all the time? And the fact that he's just going around just grabbing people with his hands and feeding like that.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that. Is that what the character? I'm new. I'm also new to Morbius. Like, I don't know if that's what that character typically does. I don't know. Is he like a?
He
I think that not sucking blood and him just like stealing plasma through the skin is an interesting touch. I guess Spider-Man is typically more like scientific. I don't know if he's usually in Spider-Man or
I
in
know he
Blade.
had his own comic run. I never read it. I've seen it, like at the comic book store whenever they have like a
Yeah,
sale or they have a special guest or something. And I'm like, oh, maybe one day I'll finally read it. But I think that's something they did just for the cartoon
yeah,
because, as a vampire, what you want is
yeah,
blood, not specifically
yeah.
plasma.
Plasma. Yeah,
Because I mean, I know there's obviously important scientific things you can do with the plasma from people's blood, who have autoimmune diseases. But I thought that was weird because it's almost like he had little what is it? What am I thinking of? What animal? Like almost like little beak suckers, like an octopus has on
Mhm.
his hands, and that's how he fed. And
Yeah,
then, like, it's when he grabs you, it's almost instantaneous that your plasma is drained.
yeah. I picture it more like a psychic type of thing. Like he's just
Yeah,
like
that's
holds it through your skin or something, which is odd.
I
I
was I know I thought that was weird even as a kid and as an adult. I'm like, this is still weird.
Yeah,
What
that
was the
that's
thought process?
that's something that kind of confused me. Is like I feel like they were mixing their vampire lore because it's like him and Blade are like just. I think it's interesting because Blade is half vampire, Morbius is a vampire, and it's like Morbius obviously wasn't created as a vampire the same way as Blade was created as a half vampire. Like going just based on the movie, like obviously his mother was bit, but I don't I don't think like I think it's funny that there's many ways to become a vampire in this universe now, and it's just opens the door to just like a lot of craziness.
Yeah, it's definitely something that and obviously there's different mythologies for vampires across all the different cultures of the world.
Yeah,
And I, the half vampire thing, like, oh, I had a human parent and then they were bitten by a vampire, or they had relations with a vampire and that's how I was born, or the whole I got caught up in the wrong place, wrong time,
yeah,
or I was meant to be a ritualistic sacrifice, that kind of thing.
yeah,
And so seeing it from a science experiment gone wrong kind of deal, it's not bad. It's not a bad idea, but it's definitely a ballsy idea
yeah,
because one thing that I definitely will say that I like about Morbius's vampire is more animalistic. If you can see where I'm going with it. Because yes, typically all vampires have, the long fangs, the nails, the hair, but he was more bat human like because
yeah,
his eyes and sclera were one solid color. his skin was, pale and ashen almost. And, and I think in even certain iterations of Michael Morbius that you see him in, he's got the echolocation.
Hmm.
So it's almost like they wanted him to be a man bat instead of a vampire.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
And I still think, you know, it's not a bad thing to try to do. I mean, it worked. I do think like, oh, this isn't anything weird. Because if I remember right, I think Michael Morbius had some kind of genetic blood disorder where he had to receive regular transfusions, and so obviously somewhere down the line, that's what would happen.
Hmm.
But that's I'd have to look more into Morbius and try to figure it out like that. But I know one thing I do definitely want to say: the voice actors in this, like everyone was on point for their roles. And I'm not, I'm excluding Peter Parker, obviously, Mary Jane, Felicia Hardy, and Harry Osborn, because they're very pertinent and important to the story. But
Right.
like how Blade came in and he was, very gruff and
Yeah, strong.
almost kind of John Wayne, if you will. Like he was here to be about business at all times, no matter fucking what. If he had the chance to kill Spider-Man and Morbius, he was taking it. It didn't
Yeah.
matter who.
Yeah, it felt
And
like he was threatening Spider-Man. Like half the episode is like, if you're not with me, you're against me, which is like, oh, this is interesting. Didn't see that in the movie as much.
And even the I'm not gonna call her the police chief. I think she's more like a commissioner or an investigator. Like how she was very in Peter Parker's face, like, Peter, you always manage to find pictures of Spider-Man. Do you think
Yeah,
you could let me know when you see him? I have we need to take him in and get him questioning. And he's just like, that's not really how it works. And she's like, you're protecting your own money. Like she called
yeah,
him out and said, you're just doing this because you get fucking paid for it. Which, yeah, that is that a half truth of it. But she doesn't know Peter Parker's Spider-Man, and she's just like,
yeah.
you know something about Spider-Man and you're hiding it because you're making a good quality living off of it.
I did especially like when they were like it's they do this. I feel like they do some cartoons all the time, but it makes sense. But when they showed the news broadcast where it was like, oh yeah, Spider-Man, like he's being a menace. Like they were talking about him, how he's like being a menace, like everyone hates him, like, which is an interesting Spider-Man trope that they do a lot. But he grew his
Yeah.
arms. I don't remember exactly what they're saying, but there it was like a negative spin on him. They're like, in other news, missing student Peter Parker is back from wherever he was, and they're interviewing
Yeah,
him.
it
And it's
was.
just so funny to me. It's just jump cut from Spider-Man to Peter Parker. It's like no one in this universe has any idea like that they're
You didn't think two and two together, like, oh,
yeah.
this random kid goes missing, and oh, coincidentally, Spider-Man's also missing.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
were just like, yeah, Spider-Man, he's been attacking people. We need to get this bastard off the street. We need to fucking,
Yeah.
have him tried in the highest court of law. And then they're like, but in positive news, folks, sweet elderly Aunt May's nephew, Peter Parker, has finally returned home. And she was all happy, like, I'm just so happy my Petey's back. I've been worried sick. What the fuck are you talking about? Just 10 minutes ago, you were calling Spider-Man the scum of the earth. And I know it's a cartoon thing, like you said, but come on. But I know I've said, a lot of the positives, the fun, the goofy stuff I had to say. So I'm going to go ahead and give my final thoughts and rating. This is watching this as an adult. Like, yeah, there's a lot of tender love and care in some of the scenes where you're like, okay, they really wanted to emphasize points A through C. And then you have other things that are just silly for the sake of being silly. And I got to say, this is a really solid, like, 7. This is still
Yeah.
something. Well, I take that back. I don't know if I would show this to a kid now, just because, certain things I would say we grew up watching like that, I would deem too violent or too mature in certain scenes for kids. Because, like Felicia Hardy, who's obviously Black Cat, and then Mary Jane, like they're drawn to be like very like physically attractive. Like, they've got the plump lips, they've got the
Yeah.
really long, luscious hair, and their voices are just really like seductive and inviting. So I'm like, I don't know if I'd show this to a kid. Maybe like a late, like a tween, like
Yeah.
not quite a teenager and, not a kid
Yeah.
anymore. So you're
Exactly.
watching more mature stuff.
Yeah. I think I'm probably around a 6 or a 7. I think that this was new to me. I used to watch Spectacular Spider-Man when I was growing up, and I would get like the Amazing Spider-Man comics in the mail. So like, I loved Spider-Man growing up. I don't know how I've never seen this show. I didn't even know this existed. It just feels like it feels like it feels a lot like the X-Men show. Like even the intro song is like the same. Like
Oh,
it's not the same, but
yeah.
it's like very similar.
Yeah. In
And
fact, I think this might have been by the same studio.
that makes sense. It just feels
Hold
so
on.
much
Let
like
me.
it.
I'm so sorry for this derail. I just have to look this up very quickly to see what studio did this. No, not X-Men 97. Is it 97? Yes, it is 97. Continue on, Tony. Just everyone ignore me.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think it was a cool intro to Blade. I think to really appreciate the episode, I'd have to watch the whole season to kind of understand what was happening. I do like that. Like I was gonna say, like in mainstream or media of Spider-Man, I don't think they've ever done like Man Spider arc. Like I played like a lot of the games and I've watched all of the movies and I guess that's it. But they don't touch on that. Like I've heard of it, so I think it's interesting and kind of ballsy to do an arc like that. So yeah, I'd probably give it like a 7, and I definitely want to get back and like actually follow the whole arc beginning to end. So yeah, it was good.
Nice. I agree. This is definitely one of those things I think people would enjoy watching a lot more than they would give it credit for.
Yeah,
Did it? Hold on. Did this company who did Power Rangers also do this?
Spider-Man.
Oh, you know what? For the sake of time, because I know we've got still the movie to talk about, I do believe that the same company who did Power Rangers also did this.
That's hilarious.
Because they got bought by Disney. Wow.
Is it this TMS Entertainment thing?
It's a Saban Entertainment.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting that this is Japanese. Oh, Saban, yeah, Saban, yeah, they did Power Rangers. They did a ton of other things. Yeah,
Yeah, they did
yeah,
a bunch of stuff. Oh wow.
yeah. Let's. Is this
Yeah.
a Japanese produced Spider-Man show? I did not know that.
You know
I
what? No,
guess.
that does make sense because they've done a lot of other Japanese related things. But that's something we could talk about off screen.
Okay.
But now we get to go into what I have been waiting to talk quite a bit about. I wish Josh was here, but like I said, he's traveling for the holiday to be with family. So, we'll just get his light review for both and a synopsis, on our Christmas special. So, Tony, if you want to take it away for Blade 1998.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Blade. So Blade is a very '90s Marvel movie that does not feel anything like a modern Marvel movie. Following Blade, the Vampire Hunter, and half. What do they call him? He's not. They use a word for it, but he's half vampire. And
Yeah, he's like a half breed. I can't remember.
Okay.
It's
I
a
thought.
funny word.
Side note: I thought it was funny they used that word because they used the same word in South Park to describe someone who's half ginger. Oh, Daywalker. That's what it is.
Daywalker. Yeah, that's
Yeah. So anyway, Blade begins with the the scene that knew the movie for, which I've seen before. We can talk about that later. And he then saves this woman who is bitten in a hospital. She's brought to a hospital. He saves her. This is the scene that I missed, and I'm pretty sure that he explains vampires and the whole underworld and how that works, and drops her off at her apartment. And then she is attacked by a man who works. He's human and works for the vampires. Blade also gives advice to her: be careful. I'm not going to go like full synopsis, but be careful what's around you or who's around you, basically. And she's like followed back by like these two people who are very clearly vampires, and she kind of starts to discover that this whole world is infiltrated by vampires, and it's a sizable amount of the population are like hidden undercover secret society vampires. So she joins Blade and her partner, who I don't remember his name, but he is making all of the vampire hunting equipment for him. And then he is tracking down this guy named Frost, who is also a halfling, but I think his plan, I didn't quite understand his plan, but I think his plan was to follow this prophecy to become a full-fledged vampire with him and his posse, and become the leader of the vampires and also the leader of the world by becoming a full vampire. And the whole movie is them following him, following the prophecy, ending in a huge climactic battle where a lot of people die. And there's an interesting scene with Blade's mother, where which we'll talk about later. That's how did I do?
You basically hit all the nails on the point. His Blade's partner's name is Whistler.
Whistler, okay.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. The warehouse rave scene. I think that is the most well-known scene from the Blade trilogy.
Yeah, it definitely.
Like, yeah, you have these people, they're obviously dancing to some techno, EDM music, and everyone's getting down, they're having fun, so to speak. And then all of a sudden the the water sprinklers just start spraying blood, and everyone just starts showing their fangs and doing a light transformation. And the guy in there, he's just like, what the fuck is this? And he tries to run away. And then that's when the woman who brought him there is like, where do you think you're going, sweetie? You're here to be our next meal. And he's just shitting bricks. And then Blaze just walking up like, I gave you guys a warning once. Now you gotta die. Mm-hmm. And he's literally just slicing people in half with his, I think it's in the Blade universe, they stick with like silver is a weakness of vampires.
Yeah. There's something about that sword. I know that the gun has hollow point silver bullets.
Yeah. He's got his silvered sword. He's got his garlic bombs. He's got the cross stakes. They are really pulling all facets of vampire lore here.
Yeah.
But what made it so good, he was, he had pinned the male vampire to the wall, and he was asking him questions, and he was like, make sure you tell your leader Frost that Blade was here. And then in very 90s action style, the trench coat turns around and he just jumps up and is fucking gone when the police get there.
The acrobatics by Blade this movie were pretty great, but sometimes they were pretty funny. Not to jump to the end of the movie.
It was so over the top. I forgot. Like, this is a good movie, don't get me wrong, but boy, is this a 90s movie.
There's a part in the final fight scene, not to jump completely, that struck me as very similar to that, where he does something in that final fight and it doesn't work, and it's like, it's like the classic fight where it's like, oh, I don't have any weaknesses, blah blah blah, and Blade kind of like turns his coat like he's about to turn around and walk away. And then he like goes to his side like this and does like a Chun-Li kick in the air. And I'm like, dude, what is happening?
Yeah. It's the classic, like, well, if you have no weaknesses, let me just kill you with too much of a good thing. And he like ODs him on that blood serum that they were making.
Yeah. I didn't understand that. That's what threw me off, because I feel like they were making 3 different serums. But then I saw the lady blow someone up with that serum, and I'm like, dude, this is not saving vampires. Like, this is not helping anyone. And she gave it to Blade and was like, this might cure you. It's like, no, it's gonna kill him. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, it's made from like his blood, so it's like because the ritual you were talking about was for Frost to get the powers of I'm gonna mispronounce this because it's a Spanish name. La Magra, I think it is. Which is like, the blood god or, the original vampire, depending on, your interpretation of where it's coming from. And so he basically had to sacrifice 12 pure-blooded vampires to ascend.
That makes sense.
Which, follows another classic vampire lore. You've got not half-breeds. You've got, what do they call them? Spawn, that's what it is. You got your vampire spawn who you've turned, and then a spawn can turn into a full-blooded vampire, once they've ascended and killed, X amount of pure-blooded vampires.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very interesting because, fun fact, this movie was, like, people say, like, Robert Downey Jr. started the Marvel Cinematics, but really it started in 98 with Blade because Marvel was going bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And they were at the point, like, I think DC was about to buy them up. And so they had made Blade as kind of a last ditch effort. And I think the budget for this movie was like 45 million and some change. And it grossed, I think 130 or so. I looked this up a long time ago. And so it essentially helped save Marvel from being incorporated into DC, which I appreciate because DC would have just run all of this into the dirt.
Yeah. Superman, Man of Steel 2006 would have not only killed DC, but it would have killed Marvel movies too. So that would have been a nightmare. So thank you, Wesley Snipes.
Yeah,
thank you whoever produced this movie.
That was also a thing that we mentioned previously when we talked about the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, because that was something that was mentioned in there. So this is kind of the context for that.
Yeah. What's funny is what I played after this movie was Blade Trinity, and it starts with a very tongue-in-cheek monologue opening by Ryan Reynolds, and I was like, what the hell? Like, did I just accidentally start Deadpool?
Oh yeah, because Blade Trinity is the third movie, and that had I think that's where Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes made their friendship, and that's also where Triple H was doing some acting.
Are you serious? He's in that movie? Oh man, yeah. we might need to have another Blade episode.
It's a good movie. It's very silly, but Blade Trinity is a good movie.
Yeah.
But it with this one, definitely him finding out that his mother was alive and Frost was the vampire who turned her. Like the fact it was like, well, my mom's here, but I gotta kill her. And the fact that he got his full circle of revenge on Frost for turning his mom and essentially ruining his life.
Yeah. Were Frost and his mom, they looked like the same age as Blade. Was that on purpose because they're vampires and they don't age when they become vampires? That threw me off. And I was like, okay, maybe that can be explained away with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because Frost, he's not a pure-blooded vampire. I think he was bitten and turned. And within the case of Blade, he was born a half-blooded vampire. So, he's got all the vampire strengths but no weakness because he's not naturally turned. It was more of like he just got it from his mama.
Right, that makes sense. This movie.
Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to go on another point. If you had something else, I don't.
Oh no, I was just going to ask a question. Please go ahead. I've been dying for this.
This movie felt like a lot like The Matrix. Like I know it's just a '90s action movie, but it just felt like they were doing the same, a very similar vibe. And I loved The Matrix, so I was very into that. Especially with the club scene, just felt straight out of The Matrix. I don't know if they had a there was a club scene in the beginning of The Matrix, or I don't know. This movie reminds me of that, and it reminds me of the 90s Mortal Kombat movie. I don't know why.
It's because of the cheesy action in it.
Yeah, I think it is.
Everything has to be very dramatic. like with all the punches, the kicks, even like some of the death scenes. Because I was gonna ask you when I wish I could remember the lady's name. I think it's Karen. Like when Frost threw her into the pit, so like that zombified version of Webb could kill her. What
Yeah.
did you think about the visual effects they did to show him like being all rotten and decayed?
I'm trying to remember that part. I'm sorry.
It's
There was
okay.
a lot of other things in that part that stuck out to me. I remember everyone just turning into bats and flying, skeleton bats and flying away. Was that like very like right then?
Yeah, I think it was right in the midst of all
Okay.
that because that was right at the tail end before Blade gave him that steroid overdose. Not steroid, Botox overdose.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying. I don't know if I remember. I'm sorry. I'll have to go back. There was so much going on in that scene that I might have just missed me.
No, it's perfectly fine because I was looking at it and honestly, I forgot how bad that kind of was.
Yeah,
Like it was. Who boy, they definitely
yeah,
took some liberties during this movie, and some of them did not pan out like they had hoped.
yeah. I will not lie to you. I will say I was slightly disappointed immediately in the first scene because you see him hit someone with the blade, and I don't know. Maybe I'm a freak, but I was like, oh, he's gonna like cut off some vampire arms and chop up the vampires, and then it's like he hits them, and then they turn into like a yellow skeleton with terrible CGI, and I was like, oh, I was like,
Yeah, they. This was. It was the '90s. What can we
yeah,
say? It was the '90s, man.
yeah.
It was,
I'm trying to just pull up the scene.
let me find
The
it for
very end,
you.
I can find it, but yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Uh, Positives. I really do. I don't know. I haven't consumed that much vampire lore or like media, but I have played. I don't know if you've ever played the game Vampire the Masquerade
I
Bloodline.
want to play that so bad.
It reminded me so much of that game because it's like the same thing where it's like there's different classes of vampire. It's like the neo '90s aesthetic, like the underworld with like the underground where there's like the different classes, and it's like I thought it was super cool. I will say the scene, I like teenage me, and I guess now maybe because I still loved it. Like I love that shit where it's like, oh, like they have to go find this guy. They go to this club, and it's just like looks like a normal club, but really it's like everyone there is like part of this gang or something or like mob, and it's like there's a secret layer because I don't think everyone in the club. I think a lot of them were like probably like somewhat gang affiliated or something, like where it's like the mafia, but
Mm.
like a subset of those people are also vampires, and under all of that, there's like a secret layer. It's just I love that shit. That shit is so sick to me. So that I like fell for immediately. I was like, that's fire.
Yeah, this movie definitely has a lot of stuff that I fondly remember. Like how Blade is kind of very easy and tender when he's talking to Karen after he saves
Hmm.
her
Hmm.
from after she's bitten. And I'm like, we obviously know Blade is this rough, gruff, and tough guy, but he also still has a soft spot for humans and more specifically women because of what happened with his mother. And I'm glad that that did translate well because even as the confrontation continued on with Frost and how they were attacked, captured, and Blade was drained of his blood, like in every instance Karen could have just ran off and tried to get somewhere safe, but
Yeah,
instead, she was like, Blade, you gotta feed from me. It's the only way you're gonna recover, and it's the only way we're gonna win. We need you. And I
yeah,
do think that, the helpless damsel can be done right in the right circumstance. Not that she was a helpless damsel, because she was a very intellectually smart and capable woman. I mean, she helped make the fucking the the blood mixture that ended up killing Frost by having him blow up from the inside out, which I still think is very funny. That whole scene is just funny.
Yeah. No, it definitely. Yeah. No, I give her a lot of credit as a character because I don't know, like I don't know, maybe she's kind of reliant on like the protection, but like I don't know if I don't know if I could be that involved in the vampire hunting if I got bitten.
Mm-mm.
I'd be like, okay, let me get on a train to like northern like Sweden. Like no one's gonna go all the way there to find me. They don't care that much.
I'm going to the furthest place where there's
Yeah.
almost 24 hours of sun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like props to her for, sticking it through and helping Blade defeat, end up killing a demigod, because that's essentially what Frost turned into. He was a
Exactly.
demigod.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, man! After that, I would have gotten so much counseling. I would have tried to seek out every avenue of therapy and just identity erasure I possibly could. Like I might have honestly tried to fake my own death just so that people are like, "Well, we just couldn't find her. She's been missing for the last 2 years. We're gonna have to call off the search. We're gonna have to have an empty casket, and just bury her in the ground somewhere."
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was something else that struck me as odd in this movie. I thought it was really, really funny because
I'm trying to
it
think.
there the one scene where Frost has that little girl and is like threatening her to Blade. I forget what he was threatening. He was saying something to Blade. But I thought it was so funny because they're just talking very openly about vampire stuff and he's just like has this little girl by the head. And it's like this like any onlooker could see this and be like, this is not a good situation and this is not a good dude. We should probably step in. And then that happens, and then they just start fighting in the middle of the streets. And then the whole movie, Blade is just walking around with the katanas on his back. I'm like, this is hilarious.
Oh yeah.
That is like the one thing about the movie that I thought was super funny. It's just
Yeah,
how
let's
open
just
Blade is.
publicly expose our secret, society that's been here for millennia to the
Yeah,
general public. Yeah, let's get the fucking government involved in our affairs.
yeah. I thought that was funny, but I'd still, it makes the movie like still like I don't know. The funny things
All
like
the
that make the
cheesy
movie
bits,
better. Yeah,
all of the bad CGI. I forgot how bad some of the CGI was,
yeah,
especially when Frost exploded and it
yeah,
was just almost like a clay bomb went off
yeah.
because it was just big chunks and just water. And I'm like,
Yeah,
was it really like this when I watched it the first time?
yeah. I thought it was, and then I'm trying to remember the the big the big guy that they just were spraying with light. That
Oh yeah, the fat dude.
was crazy. That was such a weird scene, and they just like tortured that man. And Karen is like spraying him past what he needs to be sprayed with, and she's like, "What? What do you mean? You said if he moved, hit him with the light." And he's all red and like burnt.
Blistering.
Yeah,
One more special effect I wanted to ask you about. So when Frost did complete the ritual for to be a demigod, and his hand regenerated from the blood, and it looked like something that was made out of Play-Doh. How much of a giggle did you get out of that? Because it just tickled me so much seeing that hand regenerate from
yeah,
essentially like silly putty.
yeah. I don't know. I think at that point, I've just like I accepted everything that was going to happen. At that point. I think I was fine with it. I will say, I yeah, I will say at the end of the movie, I was just glad. I will say I do have one criticism about the movie. At that point, I think I was happy with that. I think in the like for a little bit there, they spent a little too much time of Blade not having any powers or doing anything, and he was basically just a prisoner with no powers for like 20 or 30 minutes, it felt like. And I was just so happy that that was like over and they were fighting again. I hate to say that, but
no, like him being a hostage, being drained of his blood, essentially not being able to do shit. I'm like, okay, I understand it's for the plot of the movie, and you have to have that to advance certain things, but come on.
Yeah.
You couldn't have him like being restrained by his mother or something.
Yeah. I also didn't understand his mother. Like why is his mother like on the side of Frost? Like that was just so strange to me.
I think it's just strictly because she's finally embraced her vampiric side, and
Yeah.
Frost was the one who turned her. So it was like that.
Makes sense.
I don't want to call it like a master and slave kind of deal, but that's almost the vibe it gave off. Almost not master and slave. It's like Stockholm. That's what it is. Like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is Blade? Yeah, I was gonna say to speculate. Is Blade like stronger against like to resist the urge of becoming a vampire because he was born with it? Is that the idea?
Kind of, sort of. Like the urge is always there.
Yeah.
And that's why he's got, those different syringes to suppress it.
Yeah.
But I do think, with the fact him being a daywalker and the fact that, he has all the ups of the vampire without any of the negatives. The only thing he's really fighting is his urge to feed on people.
Yeah.
I do think if he ever was to just full on give into the urge, he would be a very serious threat, not only to other vampires, because I could see him, definitely feeding on other vampires as, a means of, I can eat you guys, and, what are you really going to do to stop me kind of deal. But I think, I do think that, the urge to feed is the only thing he honestly struggles with.
Yeah. It is cool they gave him that kryptonite kind of thing, and it's not just like, no pun intended with that. But
it's another piece of the layer to him, because if you have the powers, obviously the urge is going to come in somewhere, and we finally do get to see him feed once. I mean, albeit he had nothing at that point, so he needed it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But this was. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, but rewatching this definitely gave me a new appreciation for Wesley Snipes. Like, I know obviously the Blade trilogy isn't the most well received. Like, yeah, it's a good movie series, and yeah, it's cheesy, but Wesley Snipes really put his all into this role, and he wanted to make sure people had an enjoyable time watching it. All the way from how just dark and broody he was to how he handled, certain scenes where you're like, I don't think he's going to do this, and he does it. Even in my opinion, all the way to the end where he's like, I've got no choice to feed, so let me have, just a small moral dilemma on feeding. And then the fact that, he also stuck Frost in the head with that needle, I thought was quite funny.
Yeah.
Like, he could have done it anywhere else, but he chose the head.
And the way he does it too is like just so like
over the top.
Over the top. He like kicks it into him or something. He throws it in the air and like kicks it, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And Frost is just like, huh? Did I just get it's one of those like, did that just happen?
Yeah. I think I agree. Like Wesley Snipes clearly cared about this role, and like put in a lot of effort into this role, which like obviously like it's just interesting because it's like a movie before Marvel was like taken seriously. So it's like really cool to see someone that like actually like becomes the character, because like movies from this era, like I couldn't tell you who was the first Punisher. Like I couldn't tell you who was like the first, I guess Ghost Rider is Nick Cage, but like these movies that didn't really stick, like Jonah Hex, like the movies where they're still trying to find their footing, like I guess Marvel but like he just is Blade. Like he played the character perfectly in an era where it wasn't taken as seriously, and he like saved that that company because of it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And honestly, the only other competition, yeah, let me not call it competition because that's very rude and demeaning. But like the only other movie very similar to this was Spawn. And
yeah,
Spawn went through the same thing. He was, trying to get back to being a person again. He wanted to get back to his normal life. He made a deal with the devil. And he had to fight and claw his way out of it. And I mean, we never got a Spawn 2. And like, yes, that's a DC side of things, and Blade is on the Marvel side, but I mean, their stories aren't too terribly far apart how the movie portrayed them. And I watched Spawn more than I watched Blade, only because it was what was more readily available for me to watch. Like if I would have
yeah.
watched Blade more, I would have a more of appreciation for Blade.
I've actually never seen Spawn. I know that the new series. I think there's a newer series on HBO.
You've never seen
No.
Spawn? Oh, I hold on. Wait, because there's one scene, not scene, but there's one visual effect. You know what? I'm gonna save this
Okay.
and make it one of my picks. You have to watch Spawn.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm very into it. I would love
dude.
to. I know I've heard some of the history behind Spawn about how it's like a former either I forget was it Marvel or DC writer that went off and did his own thing and like it
Yeah,
was
I
the
think he was a
most successful.
former DC writer. What's his name?
Hmm.
Todd. It's Todd something. I can see it
Yeah,
in my mind's eye.
yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to do that. He
But
worked on Demon Slayer apparently. That's interesting.
I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. What was how do we, what was I gonna say? Oh, Blade. Sorry, I completely had a brain fart. Excuse me, folks. But Blade 1998. This movie has a lot of charm to it. Like, don't let the silliness that we said, don't let some of the bad effects and things, deter you from it. This is a movie that I think, even if you're not a Marvel fan, you should watch just to see like what could have where Marvel really came from. Because after watching this, I definitely see some of the strokes that, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, like all of them took when they started getting their own movies. I never got a chance to see Jonah Hex, so I can't say. But also like Nicolas Cage being Ghost Rider. Like a lot of scenes and how things are performed are very similar to what was done in Blade. Because it's like not everyone, but like people who look into it have learned Blade and saved Marvel from being bought out by DC. So there was a very solid chance that we never would have the MCU. Although with how things have been, I don't think that would be a bad idea. But that's neither here nor there. That's for another episode that I'm not going to go any further on. But I do give this movie a very solid 8.
Yeah,
You have to give this movie its flowers. Is it a great movie? Not by any stretch of the word. Is it entertaining? Absolutely. You could put this on in front of someone who likes bad effects, cheesy plots, and is there for the whole 90s action hero aesthetic, and they would have a field day with this.
yeah. No, I definitely agree 100%. Yeah, as someone who has never seen the movie and is just like, seen bits and pieces on TV and like heard of like the opening scene. I guess I was a little worried because I didn't know it was the opening scene of the movie. I was a little worried. I thought that was the climax when that was immediate. I was like, are we gonna chase that high the whole movie? And I was like, pleasantly surprised that no, like the whole movie is very entertaining from beginning to end, even when you start on that high of a note. So yeah, I think that this like Wesley Snipes kills the role. I love the neo '90s aesthetic. I think it was just it's still a really fun movie to watch today, even if it's like not the direction Marvel decided to really take things in the future, I'd probably give it an 8 as well.
Yeah, I do think, the Blade trilogy doesn't get the praise it deserves because, obviously it's an older movie. And as with anything with older movies, you're only going to watch it, especially, back when it was released, you're either going to buy it at Target, Walmart, Kroger when they still sold DVDs at some of them, or you're going to hit up the bootleg guy at the gas station.
Yeah.
So, just the fact that this was also a movie that was just so readily watched by people, Blade 1, 2, and Trinity, I do think people need to come off their high horse about this movie and say, like, you know what? This movie really did do the job that they intended for it to do. And I think that's really fun. And as we get ready to close out, Josh had just texted us what the Christmas picks are going to be. And so what his picks are is Batman the Animated Series, Christmas with the Joker, and the movie It's a Wonderful Life. So we have not decided on a day for the episode yet, but it will be soon, so we can have that out either not before Christmas, because that's in like 2 days, dummy. But we'll have that out to you guys within the next week or so. And as we get ready to sign off, I just want to say, thank you all, especially Tony. Thank you for enjoying this late Halloween ride with me. I meant to have to see you guys a lot sooner, but life happened.
Of course, yeah.
But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thanks for sharing a couple of laughs. Happy holidays, and as always, everybody, have a good night. We're becoming super friends, one episode at a time. And tell your loved ones you love them and you miss them. Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.